and ZINGOTV channel 250. My name is Eduardo Harari. I just want to remind everybody that you can download our applications of OSG, Zingo, and Barn Burner on the respective stores on iOS and Android. Also remind you that applications are totally free, so there is no reason why not to download them and enjoy the programming that we have to offer here on the Barn Burner Network. As well, let me remind you to please, if you have downloaded the applications already, to please leave us a rating and a comment on the application and on our programming, as we like always to hear from you to improve what we are doing. Remember as well that ZINGOTV can be found on Google Chromecast, as well as Amazon Fire and Amazon Fire TV sticks, on Roku and Roku sticks, and on all TVs, smart TVs 2016 and forward. Well, interesting show tonight. I am waiting for former Toronto Blue Jay third baseman and part of the tandem with Rand Smolniks, Mr. Garth Orch, to appear on our screen sometime soon. And we'll be talking with him about the old times of baseball in the Toronto Blue Jays. He's a very dynamic individual and a great player that gave Toronto all what he had. He only played with the Toronto Blue Jays from 1978 through 87 and formed the part, like I said, with a tandem with Rand Smolniks at third base. But let's start with some baseball news as we have them right now, so that we can get into the conversation with Garth Orch once he arrives. News out of the Toronto Blue Jays are that they are working on a deal where Francisco Lindor, their shortstop, would be headed to Toronto in exchange for Lourdes Gurriel and another possible prospect. That would be an interesting trade. But I have my reservations with regards to this trade, because let's remember that Lindor is in the last year of his contract, and we would have to try to resign him thereafter. That's a very, very risky situation. In the case of Gurriel is signed is owed a little bit over $30 million through 2023. And he's a young guy that has shown and given Toronto a lot of great moments. He had a breakout season last season and the season before. So, why to trade someone that you already know what he is able to do? He hit an OPS of 882 last season with 11 home runs in 57 games. So, let's see what develops in that trade. I hope that we can acquire Lindor and Gurriel and keep them both here. The other news coming out of the Blue Jays front office today is that they have decided to retain the Vancouver Canadians as a minor league affiliate. It's our only team in Canada, and it's important that we keep it because they actually have a great amount of Canadian players in their midst. which can come up. The sad news today is that the Lansing Lugnuts and the Bloomfield Blue Jays are no longer, as the minor leagues compressed to a total of 120 teams. So we lose two teams, one in Michigan and one in Bloomfield, Connecticut, out of our organization. Today, Ross Atkins and Mr. Mark Shapiro. Hello? Hello? No, so you go on to Zoom. I sent you the link. Yeah, I know. So go, if you, yeah, correct. Yeah, correct. Just click on the link that's there. No problem. Bye. So go to your email. I sent it by email to you. Let me send it to you again, okay? I'll send it to you by email again. Your email. Bye. I apologize. Mr. Orge is having technical difficulties. I'm just going to forward him again the link to the show, and he will come on. So as I was saying prior to Mr. Garth's call, I apologize and that we had to go through that. The club, the Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins sent a message to the fans of the team saying the club wishes to thank the Lansing and Bloomfield, as well as those teams' fans, staff and fans, for their commitment to the Blue Jays player development through the years. The team, and that's what they said. We are hoping that as the season progresses, that we can get that done. Well, here he is, Mr. Garth Orch. Give me 1 second. Hey, Garth. Your audio. Okay, here he is. Ladies and gentlemen, we have former Blue Jay third baseman and strongman Garth Orch with us. Garth, welcome to Spanglish Sports World. It's always
all right. Thank you. Thank you.
So, how are you dealing with this wonderful pandemic that we are having? Because it's crazy.
Well, down here in Florida, it's not too bad. I mean, it really hasn't changed my life. I'm kind of doing everything I do anyway. If I go into stores, I wear a mask. You know, if not, I'm out fishing or fooling around or playing golf.
Oh, and we know you can play golf.
No, I'm no good. Mosby can tell you that.
So I was just going through the news today with regards to the Jays with our listeners, and basically we lost two minor league teams today. We lost Lansing and we lost Bloomfield because
Oh no.
actually because of the reduction in teams due to the pandemic.
Right. I don't know what to think about that. I don't know how I don't know how they're going to make that up. There's a lot of people out there losing jobs, and players need to play. You don't know who's going to come and do a great job for you.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like, I mean, the problem is that everyone wants, the owners want to make a lot of money, and at the end of the day, the ones that pay they pay the price is the players. It's that type of situation.
Yeah, but the only problem is that most of those minor league teams do pretty well. They usually make pretty good money. I don't know. They could have renegotiated their contracts. Anyway, that's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
They did, and I don't think it's a good thing. But we'll see what becomes of it. So how many minor league teams do the Blue Jays have now?
So the season and today it was announced. I don't know how they are going to do that. The spring training starts January 15 now.
Wow.
So the players have to report to spring starting January 8th.
Geez, that's right. That's coming fast.
And this is one question I have been trying to get answered by the commissioner's office, is if you haven't worked yet on the CBA, which is still up for grabs, how are you going to start a season January 8th?
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. I don't know how they're going to do that. So,
I mean, the CBA is still up for grabs at the winter meetings.
Yeah,
and very reduced winter meetings because it's only a week this time.
Right. Yeah, and probably a lot of it's going to be just like this on Zoom and doing a lot of different things. That physical distancing and everything else. So it's going to be interesting winter meetings.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. And we don't have a team in Toronto yet duly formed, which is another thing which surprises me.
Right.
I mean, if this was 1980, it would be a very strange thing, because this team is trying to pound on shortstops and third basemen and second basemen like crazy.
Right.
You already have a core with Bichette, Blatty, and
Biggio
in there, and now they are trying to acquire Francisco Lindor. I mean, and a Korean guy as well that play the same positions.
Right.
So where are those guys going to go?
Well,
I guess that's supposed to be your future.
Outfield, I don't know. I mean, not Bichette. Biggio may go to the outfield, or I don't know what you do with Guerrero. If he, you hopefully that he can play third base. You hope that he lost a lot of weight. Hopefully he can play third base. But, the good thing about Biggio is that he can play other positions. So,
yeah, but
but if you get a Lindor, you got to get him. If you can get a Francisco Lindor, you have to get him.
Well, they are asking for Gurriel.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Do you want? Yeah,
that's probably your best
valuable bet.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, you don't want to lose that guy.
But the other thing that, and I want to go back with you to the olden days when it was baseball, because these days the game is more about the business than about the pleasure of the game.
Right.
I know that you and Rance had a great relationship. being the tandem at third base. How did that relationship develop? Because when you came in, he was already there. Um, how did that relationship grow uh, to become that solid that you guys knew each other's back?
Well, it was really interesting because I was the one that was there. He came. He came from, let's see, he came from Kansas City. He was originally with the Angels. I was originally with the Yankees. I was in an expansion draft, and Rance came over in a trade from Kansas City. And we went to spring training, and Bobby Cox was the manager. And we had Aurelio Rodriguez. Aurelio Rodriguez, the third baseman that was, had a great career with the Tigers. And so we just assumed that Aurelio was going to be the third baseman. And we were just trying to figure out how are we going to fit in here? Are we going to play, we both were going to make the team. We knew we'd make the team, but we were just like, how are we going to fit in? Are we going to both be utility man and do a lot of different things? But I think it was the second to the last day of the season, they released Aurelio. And Bobby called us in and said, hey, you guys are going to be our third baseman. And really, neither one of us had ever played third base. And it was a kind of a weird thing. So, the season's going to start in a day, and we're out there trying to get as many reps as we possibly can at third base so we don't embarrass ourselves. And, and so we realized that if we did a good job together, we could have a career. And I think that's how we were smart about it, I guess, and you know what? Rance is a good friend. I mean, it was easy. We were good friends. So it worked out really, really well.
So during and I remember this clearly, during the 85 season, you guys had a superb year. But that season was, both of you were basically fighting with each other to see who had the better average.
Yeah.
What was about that season, because it was a monumental season for a lot of the players in the
right
team, that made it so special?
It's really funny because the year before, we thought we should have won. Detroit, I don't know, people probably don't remember. Detroit got off to an incredible start. I mean, they just tore out of the starting blocks, and I don't know what they had 33 wins and 9 or 10 losses. I can't remember the exact stats, but it was ridiculous. Well, we come down in September. We go into a 4-game series in Detroit, and we got the lead at the end of the game in every one of those games, all 4 games. And had we won all 4 of those games, we would have actually overtaken them. But we really didn't have a closer, and we lost all those games in the 8th or 9th inning. And it was really, really frustrating. That's when we traded for Bill Cottle, traded Alfredo Griffin. Of course, we had Tony Fernandez in the wings. But, we traded Alfredo Griffin for Bill Cottle, and Bill Cottle came over, and he had a bad arm. He wasn't the same Bill Cottle we had seen. But we did, we got a compensation pick from the Rangers, and that compensation pick was Tom Hinkie. And so we bring Tom Hinkie up into the second half of the season. And I'll tell you, we don't win it if we don't bring up Tom Hinkie. Because, I mean, we won 99 games and won by a game. The Yankees had 98 wins. And so without Tom Hinkie there, we don't win. And it was I don't know. Sometimes you have magical things happen. And that was a magical year.
I mean, that team, I remember that, and you mentioned Tom Hanky, but there was Dwayne Ward, and that was an outstanding, really a really good pitching staff that they amalgamated for the 85 season. And one of the big surprises in 85 that I remember was, that the trio of Bell, Mosby, and Barfield were just ripping the league apart in every category.
Yeah. They were that. I mean, that was, man. We had a good team. We just really had a really good team. We had Willie Upshaw, who had a big year, playing first base, and Damaso and Tony, and me and Rance and Buck and Ernie at catching. But that outfield, the outfield was awesome. But really, the two guys that I thought were the most important players on our team were Tony Fernandez and Damaso Garcia. They played fabulous defense. Tony took away so many hits, it was ridiculous. And I don't think Damaso Garcia gets the credit he deserves for being just an amazing second baseman, a phenomenal athlete, and really a great leadoff man.
Yeah, I mean, I have always wondered why number 7 in the Blue Jays organization hasn't been retired yet. I mean, he deserves that honor. He probably was one of the best defenders that we had in the organization in history.
Yeah, he was exceptional. And he could get temperamental if he thought he was being cheated, being treated wrong. But and I'll tell you the other thing about that team. I really like Damaso, and I really like Tony, and everybody on that team got along so well. And I think that was the key. Everybody had each other's back, and anytime somebody was going through something or something wasn't right, the rest of the team stood up for him. And that was a special team, and it carried over. I mean, we didn't win again with that group, but it did carry over to other years. We had a special group of guys there, and it was a lot of fun.
I mean, one of the things that people forget about the Blue Jays organization is that it created a family atmosphere from in the early stages of the Blue Jays. It was the group that was there was a family. It wasn't, you were all together at everything that you could do. Family day in the stadium was the best times. And I remember clearly, all the kids playing together, the parents and kids day, playing in the stadium, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it was a tremendous amount. It was. We were just talking about. I was talking to my daughter, and we were talking about Josh Barfield. And Josh Barfield was a little tiny guy running around, and Cecil Fielder had his son Prince, and these guys went on to be major league players. But yeah, it was just an amazing time, a lot of fun, and nothing but great memories back then. And I think the best part about it is that everybody got along so well, and I'd never been on a club like that before. And after that, that we kind of missed that, we're kind of missing a little bit of that.
Yeah. I mean,
and Bobby Cox played a big role in that. Bobby Cox was awesome. And he went over to Atlanta and he created the same situation in Atlanta. And I think probably the biggest mistake the Blue Jays ever made was not keeping Bobby Cox.
Yeah, I mean, it was a transition time that was very, very difficult. I think for the whole team, it brought the team down morally, in a moral way, because Bobby was like a father to everybody.
Yeah.
Now, your son started a pro baseball career. Where is he at now?
Well, I had 3 of them. I had one that signed with the Blue Jays, and one that signed with Houston, and one signed with Detroit. All of them are out of baseball. All of them are doing extremely well in business, and all of them have been very successful. So, and that's all you really care about as a parent. I didn't care if they one day in the big league. Just be a good person and be able to provide for your family, and they achieve those goals.
Yeah, and your daughter is a phenomenal softball player as well.
Yeah, she was. She might have been the best athlete of any of them. And she doesn't. She lives right up the road. She's got 4 boys, and you know, and for some reason they're all football players now. But it's a great time.
Yeah, I remember the family gatherings in the stadium. That it just made me so happy to see, uh, George and his kids, and that look more like a baseball team altogether.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. It was good, and everybody had kids. That was the other thing. It seemed like everybody. Mosby had, you know, children. Everybody had children. It was just, and it was man, it was a free for all out in those games. It was a lot of fun.
Now, what are your what are your memories of Toronto from from the beginning when you arrived in Toronto to the years of power of Toronto from the 85 through 87? What memories do you have from that?
Oh man. First of all, it felt like a really small city when I first got there. It felt small, and everybody was, I mean, everybody on the street knew who you were. You go into a place that people treated you so great, and it really had a small town atmosphere because the Blue Jays were new and it was exciting and everybody loved the Blue Jays, and it was a magical time. And then, it just got better and better and better, and the city grew and the people became bigger baseball fans. And when I went back as a coach, when Buck Martinez was managing the club, I went back as a coach for a year and a half. Uh, and then I went to Milwaukee, and the Brewers, we came into town, and played the Blue Jays. And then when I went back for old time, I just can't believe how big that city has gotten. It's just it's it's like New York right now. It's amazing.
No, and the uniqueness of the Blue Jays, it was the way you guys were placed. Uh, I don't know if you remember the old townhouse complex that you guys used to live on King Street. You know,
Right,
all that everybody was in that complex. Everybody united as a family in that complex.
right.
So
And a lot of us, well, yeah, it was just a great. Everybody lived there, and it was fun, and
you could
you know,
technically walk to the stadium.
yeah, and and that's the other thing. It was easy, like people, some of the players who play in New York City, everything's difficult. It's difficult to get to the ballpark. It's difficult to go to the ballpark back to your place. Everything's hard. Difficult to go to the airport. Toronto, none of that. Everything was easy. It was very easy. It was an enjoyable place to play. And what was really remarkable, when we got a player from another team, who'd been in the big leagues for a while, and they came to Toronto, they it was the best city they ever played in. If you ask Dave Winfield what was his most memorable time playing, what town did he love the best, he'll say Toronto.
Well, they've had his experiences in Toronto. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
When he was with the Yankees and when he came to Toronto eventually, but
yeah, exactly.
I still remember the Seagull incident in.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was an incredible.
yeah. That was great. Whatever.
But
Yeah.
you know, um, if you had if you had for new ball players that are coming into Toronto, if you had to tell them something about whether it's a city or whether it's a team, eh, environment, what would you tell them? What could you tell them about this team?
I would tell them to be good to the people of Toronto and give it your best. Because if you're good to them, they're going to be good for you, not just for the time you're playing there, but for years after. I've gone up there and done a few things, in the past, played in the golf tournaments, went up there and did a couple of personal appearances, and the people in Toronto remember you, they care about you, and if you're good to them, they'll be good to you for an enormously amount of time. So it's a great place, and you're not going to find that in a lot of other cities. They have their special players, but in Toronto, they take care of you, and that's the best thing about it. People in Toronto, man, they're great fans, and they're just really good people.
Every single player that I speak to that came through the Blue Jays organization, always the first person when you ask them who was the most monumental person in the organization, they always mention Paul.
Yeah.
What stories can you give me of Paul Beeston that you remember, of something that was done, or that how he received you, how?
Well, Paul knew that the most important people in the Blue Jays were the 25 guys on the team. Well, that was the product. He realized that the players were the product, and he liked it. He liked being a fan. He liked being a part of the team, and he was exceptionally nice to everybody that came in. And he would do anything for you at any time to help you out. And he was always there. He was always there for you. And I think when I look back and see the simplest things, if you had a problem in your apartment, you tell Beeson, it got done. If you no matter what was going on in your life, if you could tell Beeson, he was going to get you help for that issue. And so I think that was the thing, that everybody could trust Paul. Everybody. And he really didn't expect anything in return except, let's go out there and play hard and be on time. And it was like you said, you want to know what was magical is Gillick making the moves, Cox managing the team, and then Paul Beeston, being the president of the organization and make sure everything ran smooth. And then when Cito took over, he took over, and it just rolled into a couple World Series. But those were great times.
So let's go back to the idea of that unity that team had, because there were key players throughout in the 80s that formed that organization to be what they became. From your perspective, if you look from the inside out, who were the key players that played leadership, let's say a leadership role in those teams of the early 80s?
That was really funny because actually I went fishing today with Buck Martinez, and we were out fishing out here in the Gulf of Mexico. And I don't know if we really had a leader. Everybody was on the same page. And I think it was more or less, do your job. Just do your job. Be a good guy. Do your job. Do what you're supposed to do. And I guess back then we didn't need anybody to lead us. We were out there trying to prove a point that we belonged in the major leagues, that we belonged in the American League East, and that we were as good as Boston, New York, and all the rest of the clubs in that division. Detroit at that time was in that division. We felt like we were as good as them, and everybody was on the same rope, pulling the same way. And I guess as players, I couldn't tell you who our leader was, but I could tell you that everybody was, when somebody did something wrong, it didn't take long for whoever to say something. Or if somebody needed a pat on the back, everybody was there to pat him on the back. And so that was, I think that was the key to our success.
So one of the things that I remember from those teams was that everybody had each other's back to us to a great degree, and that when anyone spoke bad about the team or about one of the players, everyone would just go crazy and try to defend that person.
That's right.
Um, and one of the I remember when George, this is going back in time when George's dad passed away, and the media was saying, "Oh, he left the game because he saw that we were losing."
Yeah.
All I remember that clubhouse just went in uproar and said, "You guys don't know what you are doing. You don't know what you are saying about our team."
Yeah, that was true of George. And George, I remember one time George had an interview that didn't go real well, and everybody came to us and said, "What do you think about George's interview?" And I said, "You guys don't know George. George was liked by everybody on the club. Everybody loved George. He was funny. He played his tail off, and I mean, and he could hit, so you don't take away that bat out of our lineup. You don't mess around with George. And other teams in the league knew how valuable George was to us. I mean, my gosh, he was amazing there. I mean, oh, that was a great player. I mean, when you have guys like George and Dave Steve and Jim Clancy and Jimmy Key, Louis DeLeal, and oh my gosh, and Tony and Damaso. I mean, that's a good team. And then it allowed those peripheral players like Buck and Ernie, me and Rance, Davey Collins, some other guys to have nice careers.
Now, here is you just mentioned Dave Collins. Over the 1980s, Toronto had amalgamated and ran through their organization some of the greatest players in the game of baseball. And no one seems to remember. Why is that?
I think that we had such a dynamic core that even when players came from outside, I mean, people probably don't realize that Phil Niekro pitched for the Toronto Blue Jays, and we had a lot of guys come through, but when they came in there, they saw how great our team was, and they didn't really step forward. They just tried to get along with it.
So now I want to touch on a point with regards to the Blue Jays, and we had, I mean, Dave Steve is an example of what perfection means, because everything that he strived for was perfection. And what do you think? Do you think that Steve, if he took less pressure of his, will have taken less pressure of his back, he will have been a more efficient pitcher?
I think pitching came really easy to Dave, and I mean, it came really easy. He was just a natural guy, and so I don't think there for a while. I think when he got out of the game, he realized how good he could have been, and I think he has regrets. So I know he has. He's mentioned to me several times that he never really reached his full potential as a pitcher, and he should. I mean, my gosh, he was awesome, but he could have been a Hall of Famer.
For sure. Now, who was in your mind? Who was the best pitcher that you had that you ever faced, or that you could, or that you didn't want to face?
Oh man, I tell you what, the best pitcher I ever faced was probably Roger Clemens and Nolan Ryan, but probably Roger Clemens was the most. Man, he was amazing, and I didn't want to face Goose Gossage at the end of the game. I just didn't want to. I mean, he was hard to see. the way I hit and the way he threw it didn't match up well for me. Matched up well for him. But yeah, those were the guys. Roger Clemens was a beast. When he was in Boston, he was an absolute beast.
I asked the same question to Shaker, and he said there was only one guy that I hated to face in the ninth inning, and that was Righetti.
Well, see, left-hander. Yeah. I didn't mind facing Righetti. I did okay against him, but when you have, when you're going there and you pinch hit and Rance is out of the game, now you're the guy that's going to face Gossage. That's not a pleasant deal. Yeah. So yeah, there's a reason why those guys are in the Hall of Fame. So
what were now getting into some of the more intricate things in your career in Toronto, things that you liked about our city, the city. What were your favorite? Where was your favorite restaurant in Toronto, or what was your favorite restaurant in Toronto?
Oh man, they're probably not even there anymore. But my favorite one was called the House of Chan.
Oh, it's still here.
It's still here. The House of Chan.
Yeah.
When they had a guy there named Doc Lyons, and Doc Lyons was the majority owner of the House of Chan, and to me, that was the greatest place. I don't know how many people I sent to the House of Chan, from other teams and other broadcasters. But the House of Chan, to me, I loved that food. Yeah, I love the House of Chan. And every time if I do go back and I have time, that's the first place I go. And Doc's wife now runs it. Penny Lyons runs it, so it's a fabulous place.
Yeah, I interviewed Cecil Fielder, and he said, "Well, I could tell you many restaurants, but my favorite was my pizza place."
Well, you know what? Great steak places, all kinds of great steak places, great seafood, but. Yeah, it was a great place. But for me, the House of Chan, there was nothing like it. It wasn't Chinese. I guess it was a Chinese flair, but it was an amazing steak place.
Yeah. One of the things that I always kid around with George is, and with Ciro as well, is the olden days of Studebakers.
Yeah. I remember that place.
That was the hangout.
And a lot of those guys like that place, the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
But it was good. But yeah, Studebakers was the place. We had guys who were part owners in it. That's why. Yeah.
Ciro, George, Jesse, Lloyd,
Ernie, I think, was part in there. I don't know.
Yeah, it was everybody knew that. Either you went to Alice Fasulis or you went to Studebakers, and you could find everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Studebakers was the place.
The last question I will ask you for today, because we are running out of time, is one simple question. If you had a chance to do something in your career that you regretted that you did, what would that be?
Oh man, I don't know if I have any regrets. I guess my last year, I just got off to a bad start, and I just tried too hard. I tried too hard to get back on track, and I think that was the thing I regretted the most. Is, just sometimes I wanted to do so well, and I got off to such a horrible start that I just couldn't rebound off it, and that was the toughest thing for me.
So, Garth, I thank you very much, and believe me, we are going to have you back on the show, because it's great conversations with you and with Shaker and with Goose and all of the guys. So, want to thank you very much for being on the show.
All right, Eduardo. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I just want to remind everybody, all our audience, that this show can be heard also on the Barn Burner Radio Network and its 122 platforms on social media. Remember that to go to our website, barnburner.ca, for all news, whether it's written, audio, or video. You can download also all our shows from the past. And remember that Barn Burner, hear it, watch it, read it, download it, but especially live it, because Barn Burner is sport and sport is Barn Burner. In the name of myself, Eduardo Harari, and my guest and former Blue Jays third baseman Garth Orch, we wish you all the best. Please remain at home, remain safe, and until next time, when we come back on next Wednesday, this has been Spanglish Sports World English edition.